And now, It's Just a Show presents a very special with your hosts, Adam and Beth.
This time we watched Academy of Robots Choice Awards special.
Yes. All the stars came out to Cable for Sci-Fi Channel's take on MST3K themed Oscars.
So once again, we are doing these kind of movie specials that they did in the late 90s because we are experiencing technical difficulties over the summer.
Yes, we've looked into humanity's grim future and had to record these ahead of time.
So this is the second time they dipped into doing an Oscars preview. They had done it on Comedy Central when it was called something completely different, Little Gold Statue Preview Special. Mm-hmm. I don't know which one's the better. Well, I'll say the first one's better.
I think so, because it's more dismissive of the Oscars, which I approve of.
This was in early season 9 in 1998, and already the energy level has fallen precipitously. But I do like that they've gone back to the Oscars. I feel like that's better hay for them to make bales with than summer blockbusters, which are very samey.
Yeah.
Another thing I'll mention about this, I have not watched most of these movies.
Let's see. Going over some of these, we have Mrs. Brown.
Nope.
The Wings of the Dove.
Mm-hmm.
Good Will Hunting.
Unfortunately, I have seen that.
As Good as It Gets.
Same.
Amistad.
Mm-hmm.
Titanic, which I'd be very surprised if you had not seen. I mean, come on. You were the right age to have seen it multiple times in the theater. Jackie Brown, which is Quentin Tarantino's best movie. Suck it, everybody else.
No, I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, my God. A Quentin Tarantino movie in which he decides, oh, hey, I'm not going to be the cliche I usually am. I'm not going to do a Quentin Tarantino movie. And it's so good. Boogie Nights, which might be P.T. Anderson's best movie. I really like it.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Deconstructing Harry, a Woody Allen movie. And L.A. Confidential, which I'm sort of embarrassed to say I have not seen.
Me neither.
Yeah. I understand it is quite good, or at least that's its reputation, but didn't really, I don't know. Unless you're the Coen brothers, I find like neo-noirs to not be all that interesting. Like noirs I like, but
yeah. I'd agree with that, yeah. It's not a genre I feel like works outside of its own time.
And then I guess to essentially do the same joke that the special does, the best film of all of these, Starship Troopers.
We'll get back to that in a minute, but there's really not much to say about this one. They're back in the theater. There's an extended joke about Vice President Al Gore asking them to do this for some reason.
And that he would be the future president of the United States, which, funny that.
Yeah, that is, we are not living in the dimension that we should be. Anyway. So a lot of these movies I have not heard of. Mrs. Brown seems like something I would like because I love anything that has to do with the Victorians. But even this little preview did not really spark my interest all that much.
No.
Nor did The Wings of the Dove, which again I like Henry James. One of my favorite books is Portrait of a Lady. Never read this one. Don't think I'm going to check out this movie.
Yeah, based on the clips from both of those movies, and you know, I like Judi Dench. I like Judi Dench a lot. Helena Bonham Carter can be fine. She's very variable, I think, as an actor, but I think a lot of that had to do with Tim Burton's influence. Both of those movies, from the clips that we see, and again, I can't judge these too fairly because I have not seen either of them. The thing that's off-putting about them is what's off-putting about so many movies that really threw themselves at the Oscar, which is that you have muted acting in fancy costumes,
right? Which
never does anything for me. So I tend to avoid those like the plague.
Speaking of which, and this is completely out of... Have you seen The Favorite yet?
No, I haven't.
You should see it, because it is a costume drama that is not muted, and I think really brings something new to the genre in a very enjoyable way. I would highly recommend it.
All right.
Anyway, this was a big year because, of course, and I'm going to skip down the list, Titanic came out and destroyed the box office, much like that iceberg destroyed that ship.
And, you know, it's funny. You know how we were just talking earlier about Jackie Brown, and I just said that Quentin Tarantino made probably his best movie. Titanic is probably James Cameron. It's not his worst movie, but it's a sign of things to come.
Oh, definitely. Like you said, I was like a teenage girl. This movie should have been right up my alley. I hated it.
Yeah.
I really hated how much my butt hurt after having to sit on a movie theater seat for 3.5 hours.
Yes.
It's just so bloated. It's so self-serious. And I just don't like this gimmick. I don't like knowing what's going to happen. And like I just don't. I did not appreciate the sense of doom that was just kind of sitting over everything. It was just like, ugh. And the '90s hair.
Huh.
Every single guy has a mushroom cut, and I'm just like, you all look so stupid.
Well, that's one of the better jokes in the special, in that they refer to, I believe, Matt Damon playing Leonardo DiCaprio and vice versa. And it's like, oh yeah, I had kind of forgotten that right now we're living in the age where most men have an interchangeable undercut. But back then it was this weird, not quite frosted tips, but a lot of gel in the hair, and a little bit of spiking up, kind of that David Boreanaz as Angel look.
You know, a sharp part right down the middle, and a curve on each side, like a little hump.
Yeah, it's not appealing, and it's kind of funny to think. It's like, especially to olds, as indeed the Best Brains staff would have been when doing this special. These two actors, who I think are very different in terms of what they do and what they do well, would have seemed interchangeable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think DiCaprio really came into his own until he became old and chubby. So I was not a fan of him as a young actor. I found him kind of boring. So I was not in like I did not see him as a heartthrob when I was watching this.
No, that's interesting. So what drove you to Titanic, if not a love for Leo, which is why most girls went?
It was something to watch. It was, you know, everyone else wanted to see it. I felt compelled to watch it because it was part of the zeitgeist as opposed to any real desire to watch it.
Oh.
And same with all the Star Wars prequels. Never really wanted to watch any of them, but I hung out with people who did, so I watched them and savaged them afterwards for the garbage they were.
Oh man, Beth! When I went to see Phantom Menace with friends, I realized that I was in a toxic friend group and had to get out of it and cut them out of my life.
Really? Good for you for realizing that.
My lord.
Hey guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually never seen Titanic.
You ain't missing much.
Yeah.
You would definitely not like it.
Well, this is sort of what I'm thinking. I was watching the special, and amongst other things, like, the acting seems really bad just on these clips.
It is really bad.
Like, I've seen clips of it before, but it's been a long time, and it's just like, this is an ugly, poorly acted movie.
Yeah, I would say the only thing, like, two things shine through. Well, no, actually, you know what? I'll say a couple of things shine through to, I guess, bury or sink Titanic with faint praise, is that the sets are genuinely good and elaborate and impressive, and the costumes look right. Or at least they look nice. And I think that there's enough charisma and charm that despite really, I think more so than the acting, I think that it's like these people have to inhabit these poorly written characters and are struggling to do so. But I think that Kate Winslet and also Kathy Bates and the delight that is Billy Zane, they all shine despite this terrible, terrible movie. Oh, and the few practical effects that are in it. Well, I shouldn't say few. There's a lot of practical effects. Once again, like Jurassic Park, which we were talking about on the last sci-fi special, the CGI and how much of it is there is not actually true, and it overshadows, like, you know, they had these giant, like, sometimes to scale props that actors were clinging to. Like, there's some very impressive effects works that are there, and then occasionally you cut to something that looks like an After Dark screensaver.
I will always have a fond memory of that one dude who hits the propeller on the way down.
Yeah, that's the one time this feels like a James Cameron movie.
Yeah. But you are totally right that this is a turning point, because after this he did Avatar.
Yeah, and nothing else. He's devoted his life to mining Avatar for gold, which he has yet to pan out. And
deep sea diving.
Exactly.
Which is actually impressive.
For Avatar sequels.
He still holds the world record for going deepest in the sea, right?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. James Cameron, all I know about this is that James Cameron, early in his career, despite being a tyrant And I think it's, we're not telling tales at a school when James Cameron, when as far as dickish directors go, is a notorious dick. He's nothing scandalous, just very controlling.
Holy shit.
What?
Is that the biggest centipede I've ever seen in my life on my curtain?
That's James Cameron. He's joining us as a special guest.
All right, I might have to go deal with this, guys.
Okay. In his true form.
I'll be right back.
That's James. Centipedes are cute and helpful.
Holy shit.
I can't believe I just listened to a beautiful creature die. Aww. He was a good boy. He just wanted to eat cockroaches and spiders. They're your friends. Don't eat the good bug.
So he was the first person to do it alone. But other people had gotten to the bottom of the Mariana Trench before him.
I see.
As a team. One of whom was named Jacques Picard.
Well, she got a coffin for it. Oh my God.
Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, it's the perfect time to give this a Viking burial.
I guess she's packing up to move.
Yeah, you have to burn this whole house down. One centipede was there. You had to blend it too. Oh no! It's a smoothie. My God. Beth,
Yeah.
Did you blend and drink the centipede to gain its courage? What was that?
It was a vacuum cleaner.
They're not like cockroaches or wolf spiders. They don't spread.
This thing was the size of my middle finger. I don't want it in my house.
Oh, that's terrific, though. He would eat so many spiders and unwanted pests.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm fine with spiders, not with centipedes.
Oh, but they're so good and good for you. And hey, if you got a little itch on your back, well, then the little centipede come and scratch it.
Oh.
With his little pinchers.
Nope.
Oh, man. They're such good bugs.
No eldritch horrors in this house.
Aww.
I wonder if I should put my vacuum cleaner outside. Do you think that killed it?
Yes. Given the loud thud followed by industrial sounds. Now, Beth, what you realize now is that by vacuuming up the centipede, it's going to emerge from the bag twice its size, having feasted on all the dust.
That's fine as long as I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's calling out to its parent, and this giant kaiju house centipede is about to destroy Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh.
Speaking of disgusting creatures.
James Cameron.
Yeah, James Cameron, I'm not, and this is something that will come up later, I'm not a huge summer blockbuster watcher, but I still think of Terminator 2 as being one of the best things that's ever been made.
Yeah, and he delivered single-handedly, and I think inarguably, the best alien movie, Aliens.
Aliens, yeah.
Wow. A sequel done right, as is Terminator 2. He made several really good movies, and he also co-directed Piranha 2: The Spawning, so that's fun. But this was the turning point. As bland as True Lies is, it was at least him trying to do a comedy and do something different. Titanic is just sappy and dull and unnecessary.
Yeah. And yet, it was a total phenomenon.
But do you think that people look back on Titanic and go, man, I'm so glad I saw that movie, and I still like watching it on either 2 VHS tapes or, I don't know, whatever they do for a Blu-ray?
It's what you mentioned that, because there was it passed some anniversary a little while ago, maybe.
Well, it's 98.
Oh, 20th. Okay. But it didn't get all that much traction, really. I don't think people, look back on it too fondly.
No, I mean, I think that the only people who've made any mental notes about it are the researchers at Mr. Skin to make note of when Kate Winslet is nude in the film. Right.
In fact, a lot of these movies, unlike the last batch of Oscar movies, they're not very impactful. They don't seem like they had much influence beyond their time. Good Will Hunting was remarkable, I guess, because Robin Williams has a really, surprising role in it as this very sad psychologist.
Although, remember, this would have come out after The Fisher King.
Well, that's true.
With Terry Gilliam. So, like, not only had people already seen dramatic Robin Williams, and of course the dramatic turn of Mrs. Doubtfire, but sad Robin Williams was something you were getting like in his movies half the time anyway. But he also his big breakthrough dramatic performance was already several years ago with that. I mean, if anything, like it launched Affleck and Damon.
Yeah, which I don't get it because they're not likable characters in this movie.
At least Affleck's supposed to be playing a Chud.
Yeah, no, he does play a Chud very well.
Yeah.
But Matt Damon's supposed to be sympathetic and relatable. And that's actually something that I notice about a lot of these movies is they want us to like shitty white men. See as good as it gets.
Oh, I was like, there's no part of that in Jackie Brown. You take that back. And everyone in Boogie Nights is a gem. A flawed gem, but a gem.
Yeah, I mean, the one movie from this that I look back fondly and would watch it again given the opportunity is Boogie Nights. That is an incredible movie. And the reason it's incredible is because P.T. Anderson is really good at picking actors for who they are as people.
Yes, Julianne Moore, always nude. Heather Graham, always on roller skates and nude.
But he got what
we got what Mark Wahlberg was laying down.
Yeah, he got what Mark Wahlberg was about, and just like he did with Adam Sandler in a few years after.
I thought you were going to say A Few Good Men because that would be amazing. You can't handle the truth.
I just love Boogie Nights for so many reasons. One is that like everybody's a dummy, and it works. Like all these dummies just kind of like slipping into success, and when things start to fall apart, thinking that they can continue to be dummies that will still see success, and it doesn't work. When he and John C. Reilly try to start their own band.
Oh my God, yes.
Speaking of which, I think this was John C. Reilly's first John C. Reilly performance.
This is like the first time, because I didn't see Hard 8, but I was curious to see it doubly so after Boogie Nights. But this was the first time that I saw John C. Reilly in something. But everybody in this movie, even Burt Reynolds, who is variable as an actor, like everybody in this is so good. Mm-hmm. Heather Graham is not exactly the strongest actor.
Yeah.
She seems very nice, but she's not great most of the time. But she's phenomenal in this.
Yeah.
Everybody is. And one of the things I liked about it, and it's not even necessarily something I go for, but Boogie Nights, essentially as a dramedy, it's extremely funny, extremely melancholy, and it works. Like all of these characters are so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And even the ones that aren't, because, you know, at the very least, Burt Reynolds is at the top of his game when we first meet him, gets to such a sad place.
Yeah.
You feel for these characters. So you're doing more than just laughing at them. They're not all just dopes, but their dopiness or their inability to prepare for anything outside of the bubble they're in when they're at the top of their game and their inevitable fall from it is there's a lot of pathos to that. This is such a great movie.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's too bad that the Best Brains people, I don't know if they had even seen it yet, but they didn't seem too interested in going over it. They kind of threw it in as of a set of these kinds of movies that they weren't really focusing on. They spent much more time on things like Titanic and Good Will Hunting. I will say I appreciated the one clip of Good Will Hunting when Minnie Driver and Matt Damon are having a date.
They're eating?
Yeah, first of all, it's really gross, but it just made me remember how everybody was so wild for muffins in the late 90s.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, it's not top of the muffin to you.
Best Seinfeld sketch there ever was. But yeah, everyone was really into, especially bran muffins. Everyone thought that was the way to health, was eating these very carby muffins. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that works. But this was also the time of like Fin, so people didn't know a lot about dieting. With Good Will Hunting, I mean, that was just it. That was something I was disappointed by in a way, because when I had seen it, I thought it's like, oh man, Minnie Driver is great. She's a really good actor, and she's got such an interesting face. Like she is,
It's funny. It's like when I use the phrase "unusual looking" to describe actors, I'm usually thinking of people like Donald Pleasance, Leo McKern, and Peter Falk. But like Minnie Driver is interesting looking. She has this interesting face, this big open face, like a sandwich. She's very expressive. She can nail an American accent. And as someone who likes it when European actors fuck up and can't do a North American accent, there are charms to that. But she's great, and yet. It's not like she's disappeared. She's always worked, but she never became this big star that at the time she was hyped up as being.
It's true. I like the lady. I hope she gets more work.
Yeah. She shines in Good Will Hunting, I think, more than Affleck or Damon, who did better performances in other things.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. Amistad, another example of one of the few selections that had minorities in them, and it got snubbed.
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's any good, but it's kind of telling that this seems to have followed in the same stretch as Hoop Dream as being something that got mostly ignored. What else could I say? And then this whole special ends with a joke that what you should really go see is Starship Troopers, which just layers on so much tragic irony for this particular special, because of course the joke is, hey, let's all go see this mindless blockbuster, which is obviously so much better than any of these Academy picks, right?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if it's that. I think it just might be we think poorly of Starship Troopers. Wouldn't it be funny to recommend it as a goof? And this goes with, it's odd, and this might be a bit of a generalization, but what I find, and it comes out so much in this period of the show, is that at this point the Best Brains writers are so reactionary to anything new or anything that they didn't grow up with that they just seem to constantly hate stuff, even if they have no understanding of it, because Starship Troopers is a joke.
That's just it. And in their show notes, we'll have a link to an Atlantic piece that actually calls out riff tracks as being one of the examples of people who didn't get it. Because Starship Troopers is one of the most deeply subversive treatments of the American military-industrial complex that has ever been made.
Yeah. And, people should have seen that coming, and especially these guys should have seen it coming, because it's funny, like everyone and their dog would have seen RoboCop when it came out and would have been aware of what Paul Verhoeven does. But I can remember in this era of the show, at the very least in Hamlet, there are jokes about Paul Verhoeven being, I think, an obvious, an unsubtle director, which is, again, what he masquerades as, but he operates very subtly. And but also, it's like, I think, and I could be misremembering here, but I think there's also references to him as many Starship Troopers and even RoboCop reviews held at the time, that he is some sort of secret fascist when he's lampooning that.
Anyone who's seen Showgirls would know that is no fascist.
No. Or even Camille Paglia's favorite movie, Basic Instinct.
No, so, I mean, and the big tragedy is they took this joke and eventually, apparently, they did Starship Troopers on riff tracks, still under the delusion that this was a movie that was being completely straightforward in its, like, celebration of military might. It's a really bad look, and this is the problem when you actually start doing slightly, like, well-made movies. It's not a good look when you make fun of something that's smarter than you.
So there's a few other movies that were up for Oscars that year that didn't get mentioned, and I'm just going to throw them out there and see if you have any quick takes on them. First off, one of the movies up for Best Picture that they didn't talk about as far as I can remember, The Full Monty.
I never saw that.
I've seen that one.
Well, sure.
Weirdly enough. And it was fine. It was fine. Perfectly fine. Let's see what else is up. We got Anastasia.
The animated special?
The animated musical historical fantasy adventure film.
Are you kidding? The Don Bluth Anastasia?
Oh.
The Cause of Anesthesia.
It was up for Best Original Musical or Comedy Score.
Yikes.
Yeah. No. Okay.
I don't think there's ever been a good song in a Don Bluth movie.
There's never been a good Don Bluth movie.
Well, wait, Secret of NIMH is pretty good. And so's the game Dragon's Lair.
The song from the Fievel has definitely contributed to the culture.
Oh yeah, somewhere out there is a nice song, but I'm only familiar with its community version. I don't really remember the original Fievel, nor Fievel Goes West.
I enjoyed it when I was like 8. Let's see. Also up for an Oscar was Face Off.
Now there is a dumb movie.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I felt the same way about Face Off when it came out as I do now, which is that it is an extremely poor man's Darkman. If you are going to see movies in which a character wears a bunch of different faces and pretends to be another character, you need to watch Sam Raimi's Darkman, which should have won every Oscar, not just in 1990, but in each year subsequent.
Also, call back. I remember that movie having a very extended speedboat chase.
It does indeed. That's one of the ones that came to mind. I mean, aside from that, notable stuff about Face Off. Nick Cage is great in it. He's extremely cagey, and I say that with a lot of love. Nick Cage does great work, and it's got a cameo by horror host and writer Joe Bob Briggs, and that was kind of fun. But it doesn't have it's really sad that that's apparently John Woo's best American film, although I would say Hard Target with Wilford Brimley is a way better movie.
Nice.
That was for best sound effects editing, by the way.
Yeah, to dub out all the farts from Wilford Brimley. Oh, you're not talking about Hard Target.
And best documentary feature, one of them was Ayn Rand, A Sense of Life. I assume neither of you have seen that.
Yeah, I missed that one.
We've got, for best sound, we've got Con Air.
Oh, as much as I love Nicolas Cage, that is a movie that is hard to sit through.
Yeah.
That is very Michael Bay.
Best art direction included Gattaca.
Well, I like Gattaca.
It's like...
All right. And I don't see anything else of too much interest on this list. So is there anything else you guys want to say about the show itself?
I mean, it's definitely a bit more streamlined than the first summer blockbuster review. It's almost as though, even though there wouldn't have been too much feedback, I guess, in a year between them, because of course the blockbuster review came out late in season 8.
Mm-hmm.
But you almost get the sense of, oh, maybe we shouldn't have the Mads in the theater.
There's less of a end featuring kind of feel to the whole thing. They're just doing their thing, and it feels a little bit more controlled as a result.
Well, I think that's about all we have time for then today. So if you want to follow up on anything that was mentioned today, you'll find links in our show notes at itsjustashow.com. And until next time,
please watch Jackie Brown. It's the best movie on this list, debatably.
And then follow up with Boogie Nights.
And Starship Troopers for an erotic thrill ride.
And after you're done that, we will see you next time.
And how great, by the way, is oh shoot, I'm blanking on her name, but Blanche from Golden Girls in Starship Troopers.
Rue McClanahan.
Yeah, Rue McClanahan. She's really good. She's only in a couple of scenes, but she's phenomenal.